Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Solstice Gaming Solstice Showdown. It is the first night, it is the Solstice, and it is time to get into some fantastic Overwatch. We're starting off with a fantastic match straight from the middle of seeding. It's Cloak taking on Kryix and taking you through this wonderful world of action. I am Dor, and I'm joined by Moxie. Mox, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling, well, pretty happy, pretty excited, because I get to unlock one of the doors to my casting past door, funnily enough, because Kryix Esports is a team that I actually have seen in action before. This was back in my days with Star Esports, which was way back when, before the world went to an absolute crazy place, and we were all like actually outside. This is back in February, and casting my eye over the roster, a couple of them still around, still kicking. Spike, Amazing, and Wolf all have survived the purge of the months that followed. But Cloak, never seen them in action, excited to see what they do, whether or not they decide to go with the changes that have come onto live. Genjis, oh, I shudder as I say it. They're back, and they're back with a vengeance.
I know your little support heart is having a hard time handling all the nano blades being thrown at it, but I promise it makes for at least some really great viewing action, and we'll get to see whether or not these teams want to be running it. We're starting off on Lijiang, so there's a few really interesting things to be run there, right? It's very map dependent on what you're going to be getting, whether it's going to be night market, whether it's going to be something like a gardens. There's so many things you can run. What do you expect from these teams given the new meta?
Well, if it's night market, even though we've got a new meta, one thing you're not going to be seeing swap off is the Symmetra strategy. And this isn't necessarily something that you ditch as soon as you get out the spawn doors. No. You Sim-strat your way through onto the point itself. You drop from the high ground, and what follows is a brutal battle, and only one Symmetra will remain on the board, because the team who loses will be swapping up their composition accordingly. If the Symmetra wins, you get to set your turrets up. If you lose, you've got to deal with your ultimate bar reset totally.
It really is a big toss-up here, and it's all about who gets there first. But no such Symmetra here from Kryix. Just going to be locking in a full dive. Let's see if they can put it to use, right? Isaiah and Amazing on two very powerful heroes. The Genji and the Echo offer up so much to their teams right now, but it's a matter of execution. You're playing a very, very difficult to pull off team composition, and you have to be able to find those frags, not to mention the fact that Carter's making it incredibly hard to actually move anywhere on this Brigitte. The push comes in, begins to take over for Cloak, and the dive has to come through now, does, but Kevin Durant just slams Isaiah down from the sky.
Dive can't come through. The Symmetra setup, so Amazing can't go in. He can only chip away at a distance, already 50% up to the blade. The Bjorn isn't really going to be there with that nano boost.
Yeah, I'm very, very questioning of this dive composition. Oftentimes, whenever somebody takes a point like that, you want to see something more like some spam to get him out of the way, but they do get over-aggressive. They push through, and they're going to lose a member for that. Cloak now down one man. This gets a little bit more difficult for them. Very dicey, but they still have this Symmetra turrets. They still have this Amplification Matrix. They still have plenty of damage to mow down the members of Kryix. Right, Amazing is still in. He's got a dash reset off of Thunder Monkey, so there still is potential there to go big or go home alongside his Nano Blade. It's going to be just barely enough to take over this point.
But it's a lot invested, and that fight, it's still ticking up in Cloak's favor. At the moment, especially with Tug in this corner, the Orisa has not been unseated.
No, the Orisa hasn't been unseated, neither has the teleporter. It allowed Cloak a really quick way back onto the point. Now you're facing down a supercharger. You're facing down a shatter and so many scary things. They're still trying to engage on these members, these stragglers outside the point. They'll take down Andy, but you lose your main tank for it, and that's just not worth it.
And you've managed to get pretty much a teamfight win off of the back of a shadow. So Cloak, they had so many things, they only needed to use one. And you're already 70% off the way to taking this first map. And Kryix, they're not really going to have anything. They've got a primal, they've got a duplicate, but those things don't secure you kills. They're not like a supercharger where everyone gets the utility of them. It's just individual star power. And Cloak, they've got that survivability. Andy on that Batiste with the Immortality field can come in clutch.
Well, they're going to try for the duplicate. The Immortality field has to be perfect here because there's a shatter heading straight their way. Kevin Durant, though, looking to slam dunk straight into the back line. Absolutely not. Just plays it safe there. Takes the HP and peels for his team while they deal with that duplicate. And honestly, a really smart idea is now they disengage back in. The point touch can't even come through, and Kryix are completely locked out of Night Market.
Kryix running dive for so long onto Night Market is very strange, especially with the way that they go about it. In those first couple of fights, they sort of clustered around the point and no one wanted to move in because the Symmetra was set up, and that allowed that Brigitte for Cloak to just go absolutely ham, covering all of the angles. Every single door, the Brigitte was there with that shield, with that flare, and Kryix just could not move past it. And even in running a dive continuously onto Night Market, very hard to pull off. A lot easier, though, to pull off on Gardens. And so that's why we're seeing Spike still sitting on this Winston. And they don't have to worry about the Symmetra this time, Dor. So if they can get that dive properly going through and they can pick Andy off, that's Zenyatta going to be so much more vulnerable than the Brigitte.
Yeah, Andy's going to have a real hard time here from Cloak, but they've made so much space for him to work with. The Discord goes down, immediately burns down Spike. Beautifully done there by Cloak. Great target focus. Now that you've got the space to work with, though, where do you want to go? There's still vulnerable members in the back, Wolf and Bjorn, but they can just take down Isaiah out of the sky.
That's the thing that you've got with this Zenyatta, right? He's got that Discord orb, and it's been buffed back to the days that it was for the goats. And that means you're taking 30% extra damage rather than 25%, and while Wolf is going to be very good at dissuading dive, it's not allowing you the unparalleled aggression that Cloak can get away with.
No, and Cloak has done a fantastic job making their space for the Zenyatta, making it a safe pick, but they're losing members right now, slowly bleeding out. Kevin Durant no longer around on that Tracer, but this is kind of the way that Gardens goes, right? This first pick, it's going to be so difficult for Kryix to get it back. If they want to do it, they have to do it decisively. Going to be pushing onto the point. They don't really have any ultimates to work with. Transcendence, though, will be used by Andy, keeping himself and his teammates alive, getting so close to that Primal Rage. That's only going to make this harder. Now Kevin Durant is back in, though, alongside Wild Wing. There's just so much damage being thrown at the side of Kryix. Not even the Blade's able to keep it alive.
Kryix didn't reset. They had the tool. They had the Blade. They would have had that in a couple of seconds, and Cloak had thrown everything that could have stopped a Blade at that point. Hammond Mines out, Transcendence out, Primal out. That Blade would have been unstoppable. But Kryix get a little bit too eager. They jump the gun, and now they've got to win this point with a Nano Boost and a Diva Bomb rather than the team kill it should have been.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be a Nano to Winston here from Bjorn. Try and get that Monkey, try and get the Primal Rage up and running. But a duplicate on their backline could be so devastating, and losing your support already is going to be even more so.
Andy has just been such a monster on this Zenyatta. He has it when it comes to that long range. The dive needs to get close and probably jump onto that Zenyatta, but Cloak are doing such a good job at keeping this fight far away from their backline.
And, well, Cloak have moved the fight from their backline all the way into the enemy spawn, it seems. They're screaming selfless in the chat right about now. Self-destruct, though, comes in, tries to be over the rest of Cloak. Will do so, just back away calmly. And again, they still have so much space to work with. Even after all of that, Andy is still alive. 96 to another Transcendence. He can just stay on the ground, does manage to, gets back in, clutches it out for Cloak. Now they have to put it to use, and they'll do exactly that. Swinging on through, dogfighting massive value, sending members flying left and right. Kryix can't get a foothold on this point.
Kryix just don't have anything that offers that survivability when it comes to ultimates, right? They don't have that transcendence that Cloak always builds towards. As soon as Andy gets anywhere near that ultimate, the entire team makes sure that that Zen stays alive long enough to pop Q. And that means that no matter what Kryix do, even if it's a Nano Blade, even if it's a duplicate, they're not going to be able to convert that into picks. Because that Transcendence is just out healing all of the damage they're doing. Dive, it chips away at your health bar. It doesn't take massive big old chunks out of it. And Transcendence can very easily stop Dive for an entire push.
It really can. I mean, Andy Zenyatta, you talk about it there. You talk about just the Transcendence, but everything he did was beautiful, taking advantage of the space that his team made for him, right? It was constantly Cloak in the backline of Kryix, and that's kind of what the Brigitte is welcoming, right? You're expecting teams to dive you so that you can peel for your Ana, but when the other team is diving you, you're not diving them. You're letting that Zenyatta live, and that's really the weak point. I wanted to see Kryix try and take advantage of that. They did an extremely poor job of that now, and as we head into map 2, I'm expecting a little something special out of their escort pick, seeing as they look so comfortable on the dive pick.
I would love to see something like a pharmacy coming into play alongside that dive, because we talked about how Andy was able to stay alive so long on that Zenyatta. If there's one thing that you can just immediately wipe a Zenyatta off the slate of the map with, it's a 2-tap on a pharmacy. And it forces a team as well to divert so many resources. Dive can only be extremely successful if everyone's working towards the same goal. Things start to fall apart if you're only doing 50% of the effort for one thing, while the other 50% is taking up into the sky trying to deal with that one DPS. But we're not seeing a pharmacy coming out from either of these teams at the moment, Dor. Not seeing anti on the Zenyatta though. So if you're Cloak, you're going to be looking for that nano boost, and Karma is going to be there to bounce that main support to keep them safe because they're expecting dive just as much as we were.
Yeah, we're starting off on Gibraltar here for map 2. An interesting pick from Kryix, right? You want to be playing that dive. It seems like it's the one thing they want to be playing the most, but you just got beat by Cloak on what you're effectively saying is your signature composition. When you pick Gibraltar, you would better be the better dive team.
Well, not necessarily, because when Gibraltar came out, absolutely dive was just played 24/7 on this map. But we have seen a renaissance of all of these different sorts of plays that you can get away with on the attack. We've seen Symmetra strategies being utilized. We've seen Bastion plays coming out alongside that DPS, and we've seen double shielding really come into its own on certain maps, Gibraltar being one of those where you can just stick an Orisa and a Sigma up onto that payload, have your DPS bouncing between the low ground and the high ground so you've got control of that area, and then just set your backline somewhere where they're not going to be jumped and killed.
It has been a bit of a renaissance. You're exactly right. There's more things that you can run than the dive. These teams look comfortable on a lot of things, especially Cloak. I want to see how deep their flexibility goes because remember, this match isn't just about tonight. Yes, it's the inaugural match. Yes, you want to make a good statement, but you also have to show us you can bring something to the table. You can bring more than one composition to the tournament here, and Cloak have done that. Kryix, slightly less so. So I'd love to see something special from them, especially like a double shield, like you mentioned. Some of those more meta compositions, being able to prove that you can play those with exception, that's what I want.
Dive is that gamble, that high risk, that high reward. Unfortunately, what it is very easily shut down. Because if you've got a Batiste who's capable, every single time a dive comes in, Immortality Field goes down, the rest of the team just gather around whoever's trying to intrude into their ranks, choose them out, spits them up, rinse and repeat. But Kryix, at the moment, look at their support lineup. They are attacking, so they can still swap this up. Beyond on this Ana, Wolf on this Brigitte. Yes, you'll have that shield bash. Even Burns like going onto the Roadhog to get that hook combination going through. Just try and dissuade the dive. I would much rather see a Batiste because that means you're leaving yourself vulnerable to ult charge.
They are. They will swap though, right off of the Orisa Roadhog back onto this dive that they want to be running. And I like this Echo Genji. It gives them a lot of opportunity. But Cloak already again making space, throwing the dive straight to the backline. They go. Bjorn already under so much pressure. Amazing the first to fall. You mentioned that it takes a coordinated effort. Cloak have done that beautifully, separating out Kryix, picking them apart piece by piece by piece in this fight.
It's because Amazing is on the Genji for Kryix, which requires a lot of sustainability coming up from the Ana. You've got to keep them constantly in your line of sight. Whereas Cloak, the second DPS they're building is the Sombra, so you can get out a lot easier.
So many tools for them to get in and out, but Kevin Durant will fall regardless there. The focusing beam is too much. Wild Wing will take down Isaiah though. And that focusing beam is so critical to actually ending these tanks. Burns and Spike as well as Kevin Durant and Dog are going to be incredibly hard to actually remove from places and actually take down while they try to contest this card. It's going to take extremely good focus from Kryix as they line up for a second dive here outside of Alpha.
It's going to take an extremely good blade because once that comes through, Cloak don't really have anything to deal with it. They don't have that Zenyatta. It should be free.
It should be, but they just barely can't close this gap. Taking down the Brigitte has been difficult. Thunder Monkey, remember, not only do you have to get the blade, you also have to have the time to use it, and we will see that. Does manage to get at least one, looking for a second onto the Diva, but Cloak are playing some fantastic Overwatch.
Kryix's window just shut. They had that window of opportunity because did with the EMP in that last fight. If Amazing had been able to hit the blade, that would have been a team kill. That would have been a fight win. But now, you've got a nano blade and you're going into EMP. You have to pull EMP out before you blade, otherwise your blade will be counted, your Genji will be soggy paper, and he will be shut down accordingly.
It's a very scary proposition, such a strong combo countered by a singular ability. Let's see about Wild Wing. Bad's timing though. Lining up, waiting for the right opportunity. There it is, the EMP directly onto the backline. It looks like a counter dive is coming out for Cloak. They're looking for their own opportunity, and the bomb over top catches two from Dog. And he follows it up. Fantastic play, but that nano boost still up for the side of Kryix.
It's huge. Kryix holding on to that blade. We saw that they put it in a little bit too early when it came to the blade part on that last map, but they've learned. And this makes me be a little bit more hopeful about this team because it should be a team fight, right? They should have this. They've got the ultimates. Cloak don't have anything outside of a nano boost. Nano boost can only save one person.
can only save one person. The question is who, right? This Winston offers up a lot in the way of damage and goes straight onto the backline exactly like we expected. Kevin Durant putting him in all sorts of places that this team doesn't want to be. You're nearing that coastline. This Primal Rage is very dangerous for you. Onto the juggle, though, is going to fail, just barely not able to carry him off of the edge. And the boost, though, is going to be used, and it didn't go on to Amazing again. That critical ultimate wasted.
They hacked the Ana. Bjorn got hacked before the fight properly started, which meant that you couldn't open it up with the Nano Boost. And then you were in a position where you didn't want to Nano Blade. It's going to be a Dry Blade. But now Cloak, they've got the means to deal with it. They've got the rally. They can have that extra padding, that extra armor, and it's the final fight.
It is getting into close territory here. Kryix, your backs against the wall. The last place you want to be is match point against a team as strong as Cloak. Amazing, this blade has to be big. EMP out from Wildwing connects onto a ton of members of Kryix, and Thunder Monkey follows up alongside Kevin Durant on the Monkey, making it count.
Amazing hasn't been able to blade a single time. 10 seconds left on the clock, and this Genji has not pulled out the butter knife. And Kryix, if they can touch, they've got sustain, they've got the rally, they've got the blade. And Cloak, they used the EMP in that last fight, but they need to get there, though.
Dog still has his self-destruct. So devastating on this point. Just break this bubble, and that has such serious potential. Amazing tries to get one with the blade that waited for so long, but the self-destruct on point looks to close it all off as it goes down on the Echo. And Kryix are fighting for match point right about now. Overtime still alive, but their hopes slowly dying here. Kryix fall one by one to the wayside, and Cloak take a map 2.
Oh, Kryix. They waited far too long with those ultimates. In my opinion, you go in with Nanoblade. Yes, it might get shut down, but it will pull out so much from the enemy. Cloak, they didn't even need to wait around for Nanoblade to come through until they EMP'd. Because they took the initiative. Kryix were waiting so long to set that combination up. They wanted everything to be perfect. They wanted to be beautifully framed to the point where you could sell it on eBay for the thousands. But Cloak, they initiate, they go in with these ultimates, and they find value because of them. EMP isn't something that you want to be doing as a reaction sometimes. Sometimes you want to just kick off a fight with it because it's a wash. It's an absolute brutality, a massacre when EMP comes out. With the way that Kryix were playing, they were all up on the high ground, they were all gathered around, and they could do nothing against that Sombra because they didn't field CC. They didn't put in a McCree.
And I think I can summarize a lot of your thoughts in one or two words here. It's just been proactive play from Cloak. They have been in the driver's seat this entire time. Now we get to see them take the attack. They have very, very little space to cover. Kryix are not going for that underground meat grinder sort of style. So this dive had better be perfect. What are we looking for here from them? How do you hold this early?
It's fragile. This is a very fragile composition. You're going to get a massive amount of value if you're able to get picks. But once you feel yourself being pressured, that Ana, Wolf can only do so much. So Azia might just be trying to pump in a little bit of damage far away and sticking much closer to the supports than you expect because Beyond needs a second lifeline.
Beyond, they do need a second lifeline. It's exactly what they want. Thunder Monkey, though, not gonna give it to him. Doming Amazing immediately popping his head off of his shoulders, looking for more now. Grapple shot up. Can they find the supports in the back line? Kryix doing their best to hold on to this high ground, but it's so difficult when Thunder Monkey is throwing shot after shot after shot your way. Wildwing bad as well, just riding their backs, making sure there's nowhere that they can run or hide away from all the DPS of Cloak.
Kryix didn't initiate. They were the ones who got dove upon, and Cloak are the one reaping the rewards.
Oh, Wildwing doesn't even need a nano for this blade, just a damage boost from Karma, keeping them alive and making sure the damage comes through. This card nearing the end. Cloak have locked themselves up a map 2. It's a very, very impressive dive along with it.
Kryix, they should have been way more aggressively. You've got to dive. You're holding up on the high ground. You've got that safety, that sanctuary that you can fall back on if you feel yourself getting a little bit battered. But what do? They wait around. They wait far too long, and all of Cloak just jump on all of their heads.
Yeah, Kryix were far too passive, especially when you're playing into a Widowmaker. They're playing extremely scared. That's a dive target. That is almost a free kill. The guts, I will call it, that they had to make a grapple shot in the middle of a dive game and not to capitalize on it from Kryix, that's massive.
Yeah, Widows against dive are floating ultimate batteries, right? And the fact that he didn't capitalize on it shows the hesitancy that Kryix were feeling in that moment. They felt like everyone needed to cluster up, everyone needed to be grouped up because they didn't want to lose one player early on in the case that that might snowball into a fight loss. And unfortunately, when you're playing dive, you can't have that hesitancy because that turns against you very, very quickly.
Yeah, and now as we head into the next map here, it's going to be King's Row, not exactly a traditionally dive-centric map, so Kryix is going to have to give us a different look if they want to pull this one off.
Well, you can dive it. It's not the traditional dive that we see. When we see King's Row getting leapt upon, it tends to be a Diva and a Hammond. So you go for that high ground, but a play that I really love to see because we've sort of jousted over how best to approach King's Row in the past, haven't we, Dover? You like to see the high ground being leapt upon and taken over. I like to see teams go for the low ground. And the play is you go for the low ground if the defenders are playing the high ground because it means that they have to come out of that position. They have to try and rotate onto the point, and sometimes you can just get one tick very easily because they're just reluctant to reposition. They don't want to lose that place where they're in the power, where they're controlling the fight. But, well, Kryix, they can still swap it up. I highly doubt we're going to be seeing the Roadhog Diva coming out of spawn.
That's what we call the quick play special.
The quick play composition. But, I don't know, if you go for that Reinhardt, you have to have that brute force behind you, right? You can't have that hesitancy that we've been seeing coming out from this team 2 maps in a row. So I would like to see them go for that dive, to go for the whole everything all in. But I do hope that they've remembered that everyone has to press gas at the same time.
Kryix are such a passive team. They're having such a hard time playing dive, stepping on that gas pedal. Like you mentioned, it's all about going in and finding the guts and the cojones to really do so. Pushing onto the high ground, they think they've caught out this Wrecking Ball. Dog, though, a lot of health on this one hero. Going to be extremely hard to displace. Just going to roll out casually, and that's a lot of ultimate charge. Deceptively so for Andy, already at 40% here.
Oh, and he's going for more. There he goes. Burns trying to just keep the backline safe, but Dog is still able to pick up the Brigitte. And you don't want to lose the Brigitte. That's best defense against the dive.
That's so much of the sustain now gone here for Kryix. They finally dive the backline. Spike making a lot of space and takes down Karma. All of that appeal that we talked about from the dive that Kryix had to offer, that Brigitte gave them, it's now gone. They're pushing in, and Cloak are looking very, very scary for a re-engage here. That Zarya starting to get charged up, starting to be a real problem. Kevin Durant nearly up to the Meteor Strike. So many tools coming in. And again, because Kryix, they don't want to press that go button here. They're so hesitant on the edge of the fight, and they're going to pay for it. A Nano Doomfist now in their face, and Kevin Durant's looking to go hog wild on the back line here. Great sleep, though. Keeps him alive. Oh, but immediately woken up. It's insult to injury here. Meteor Strike can't quite find value, but the damage is done.
And he gets stunned, he gets shield bashed, but there's no one from Kryix that can capitalize on it, and so he survives. And now Cloak, they're so aggressive. They've got the Hammond Mines. They've got the Blade. If you're Kryix, you don't have anything outside of a Sleep Dart and a Shield Bash to shut Wild Wing down. If you're amazing, the second you pop that Blade out of its sheath, Dog drops Hammond Mines and the ground becomes very, very hot to walk across.
It's gonna get real difficult for him here, but there is a world where he can execute properly. Gets a slash onto Wildwing immediately. Searching for a second, recognizes the players up on the high ground, trying to take down the Esports and the last support remaining in Kryix. Finally, it's been all night. We've been waiting for it, but they used a Nano Blade, Moxie.
And they used it in the perfect place. Doug, on the other hand, used his mines in the complete wrong place. He mines all over point in the hopes that he can get Rising exploded before he can go onto the high ground, but what it means is, it means he's free to just go about the high ground as soon as he gets there, and there's no hammer mines to stop him.
Wait a minute, they're not out of the woods yet. Wildwing back, slashing and dashing his way. Can he find more than just the one kill, though? Searching for Bjorn in the backline. It's just going to be Stagger, though. They tried with the Graviton Blade combo, but they just weren't able to quite find the value they needed.
And now they've lost their best tool at holding at that choke. There we go, we're seeing a swap. The Zarya is gone, in the place is a Reinhardt, and Wildwing is going to go onto the Sombra. This is something that really worked out for Cloak, that Sombra, that EMP. Every single time it came out, it found the value. Cloak always had that follow-up coming through, but they've got to build up to it. Dog's now on the Zarya himself, so you've got to build up to another Graviton, and it means you can't hold a choke. So Kryix get all of this free space for absolute zilch.
Not to mention the fact that Ryan Mazing is 90% to another blade just from that one wasted Graviton blade. They farmed so much ultimate charge off the back of that. It's going to take some serious big plays from Cloak to do it. Karma starting out right, though. Finds a whip shot onto the Spice, keeping him off. Now it's Ryan Mazing's turn, though. Another blade in, another set of players down. Thundermonk and Andy fall by the wayside here as this Genji goes nuts on the point, enjoying the fruits of those buffs.
Cloak didn't have anything to deal with it. Remember, they'd all swapped up to their composition, so no rally, no graviton, no EMP, which means Ryan Mazing gets to have a field day, gets the blade of his absolute life. And now Kryix, they've got a Diva Bomb as well. They can really use this to punish Cloak if they try to go for this recontest. As soon as this fight starts, you can engage Thundermonkey, get him distracted, and chuck that bomb in over the Chaos. It should lock you up this point.
Yeah, it's just about closing out now for Kryix. There aren't that many tools that they have, but the Nano Boost might just be enough. Throwing the Self-Destruct and trying to ensure some sort of frag. Kevin Durant in on the backline, but this Doomfist being shut down so effectively by the Brigitte, has to use the Meteor Strike just to keep himself alive. Tries to engage back onto the Ana. Bjorn doesn't even attempt to move out of the way. He knows there's nothing but doom and gloom on the other side of that Meteor Strike, as they, though, will trade it back. Fight still going down on point. The first tank to fall will likely find the frag, and there it is. Massive slam from Thundermonkey, trying to close this one out.
Kryix don't have the healing. They lost the Ana. The Brig is going to do absolutely nothing against the full power of Cloak Unleashed. And now Cloak, they've built up the ultimates that they needed to shut down Ryan Mazing's next blade. They've got the EMP. They've got the grab. One of those is coming out as soon as that Genji tries to ult. And one of those is going to be his absolute doom.
It's going to be a real hard time here for them getting in here, even with the Nano Blade. You mentioned so many counters. It's all about the timing, though. Cloak don't want to overcommit. They don't want to waste this EMP. They don't want to waste this Graviton Surge. And we know them. They like being proactive. Here they are in the back line. Oh, what a sleep from Bjorn. Can they capitalize? Do they have the one-shot potential? No! It looks like they're just barely going to get out. That sleep nerf, that CC nerf so big. Now it's Cloak's turn. Great anti-nade onto the back line. Allows Kevin Durant to put in some serious damage on the Echo, charging up a lot of that ultimate. Still Graviton Surge online. EMP still online. They've got so many tools and they don't even use them. As Ryan Mazing goes in, farms the backline to no response.
Burns ate the grab! Burns ate the only Genji counter that Cloak had available for them at that point. And now Kryix are able to just slot that payload into B. Cloak, they lost the grab. They lost the best chance at stopping that card from moving. They've still got the EMP though. And so if you're Kryix, you cannot get caught out by this. If your supports get caught out by this, you have lost this fight. So you have to be very careful, very respectful of where the Sombra is going to be setting up.
Need to be careful, but if Isaiah can get off just this duplicate, does manage to dodge the EMP. This means the backline is under duress. They need to be very careful about dealing with this Reinhardt. However, they do manage to do so beautifully. Cloak now trying to engage. Again, that EMP didn't quite find the value they were looking for. Kryix managed to turn it around because they had to focus on that tank. Now Spike in the backline, primaled up, dropping very, very low, but the space has been made for his team here, and Kryix barreled towards the end of Kings.
But Cloak, they just have to hold on long enough for Kevin Durant to pop out that duplication, because Kryix won't have anything to deal with it. They don't have the sustainability. They don't have something like a sound barrier.
Oh, maybe they might not even need it here. Thundermonkey has the shatter. Kevin Durant has a duplicate, but again, the players fell too soon. Cloak just came out of spawn and rolled straight over him.
And Cloak, they're getting to that very dangerous point where they can cycle through ultimates because Wild Wing is 30% away from an EMP. So if you're Cloak, you win at this next fight either with a duplication or a shatter. Then you win at the next fight with the one that is still available, and then you've got an EMP to top it off because Ryan, he's got the blade. Bjorn's got the nano. We've seen that they can sleep the Sombra, but we've also seen that they don't nano blade as soon as they see that.
Oh, Ryan Mazing and his sous chef Bjorn cooking up a play here, finds one, looking for a little bit more value. Closing out this map is going to be especially difficult right now because Kevin Durant has a blade of his own of the duplicate. Another EMP in, and the bomb chucked over top. Only finds one though onto Isaiah, searching for more though. Kevin Durant on this Echo is just a monster all over the point. Elim after Elim, they continue to stay alive, which is the most important thing at the end of a map like this.
And he nanoed Wild Wing so EMP would be available and comes back on the Lucio into the fight to make sure that the team can stay there on the payload as long as they darn well please. They've
8
got
seconds.
the speed, they've got the disengage, and Kryix, they can't confirm the kills.
barely managed to get a touch on the point as they are copying over onto a Winston, gets a primal rage up just in time before they get taken out. Hack will go down, but that health bar is still relevant here. 2 kills down the way of Cloak, though it's not looking pretty. Kryix, they've got one more ultimate up their sleeve. If Spike can get in, maybe drop a primal, maybe buy a little bit of time to make this one count, but Cloak are doing a fantastic job of closing this one out and ensuring that there is absolutely no points he take from Kryix.
Bjorn's down. The Ana isn't there with the nano boost. Spike would have a little bit more survivability if she was, but it looks as if Cloak are just kicking all of the members of this team off this payload, establishing that ground as their own. And it's very strange that we see a payload actually stop on C, right? Because that is the moment, especially if you've got a duplication available, especially if there's a Sombra on the other team. Because Azia on the Echo went for the duplication, but picked up the Winston rather than the Sombra. And you go for Primal Rage if you want to buy time for yourself, if you want to have a bit beefier, chunkier health bar. You go for an EMP if you want to win a fight. EMP into what Cloak was running, they would have absolutely nothing that could have stood up to that. And so Kryix, with that one duplication onto the wrong target, just gave up a massive opportunity to keep that payload moving through C.
Yeah, and I like, you understand the thought process there. As an Echo player myself, you see that Winston, that's usually going to be your primary target. But like you mentioned, you need a fight win. This is a hybrid map. Finishing these off, the spawns are so close. You need a definitive fight win that's going to roll the cart all the way through to the end without staggers, and Winston's just not going to provide that to you. Now, though, as Kryix load in for defense, we're seeing a Torbjorn locked in, something that you know better than anybody else, Mox, that I enjoy seeing. But that alongside of the standard Nano Blade and the rest of the dive, how do you think this Torbjorn fits in? I'm actually really curious what you think that Cloak can actually do about it.
So basically, this Torbjorn is there as Sombra deterrent, a Sombra repellent. Every time Wildwing tries to decloak and go for a hack, Torbjorn turret is going to be standing right in your way, and you might just have to translocate out immediately. It's a good play coming out of Kryix, but it's only going to work on point A.
That it will. It's all about setting it up correctly, but it can be very hard to remove. Kevin Durant will deal with it immediately. Those sticky bombs are a fantastic tool for doing so. Dive onto the high ground, comes in. Cloak putting in the damage. Great anti-nade, lands down on 2. The Diva already going to be demeched here as Ryan Amazing drops very, very low. Oh, the sticky's on 2. The Torbjorn. How much can they actually do, though? Not quite enough through the overload. However, that's not available for when Cloak try to close this distance. They have to go for a second dive here onto the backline if they want to be successful. Oh, that's a lot of damage. Can he live? Oh, Spike goes down. The Winston no longer available. It's a worthwhile trade here for Cloak because all that health is now out of the way. You've got a nanoed up scientist facing you down. Thunder Monkey going nuts with the Tesla cannon, and they're going to take over point A with it.
Cloak forced Kryix to play that game, and when you're playing dive, you cannot afford to play your opponent's game. Dive needs to have the space, needs to have that mobility. Cloak forced all of Kryix into the corner behind Hotel. They weren't able to escape that one. And now, you might not be able to escape the steamroll that Cloak are going to be looking to keep this payload moving because you've got a duplication. You've got an EMP. You go for a duplication onto Burns, the EMP, nothing is going to stand in the way of a team with a Diva Bomb.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that Primal Rage up such a great ultimate advantage here for Cloak. They are facing down 15% or so until a Nano Blade is up for Kryix. So if they can get that up on time, use it correctly, they could lock down this choke and give themselves a little bit more hope in this match point. This is the time to shut them down if they want to. It's all about the engagement, though. You need to see them be proactive for something they were so scared to do. And you know what? Cloak's going to do it for them. Putting the engagement in, chucking down the EMP, a duplicate from Kevin Durant onto the Brigitte, guaranteeing the fight with all that armor, with the rally, and just so much free real estate for Cloak to take over.
Kryix did not initiate. They had that Molten Core. They could have stopped all of Cloak in their tracks if they just put it onto the road in front of the payload. But no, they wait, they get EMP'd, they get chewed out. They will have this Nano Blade. They still have Molten Core. They're coming into a whole bunch of ultimates. But Cloak, they've got a whole bunch of shutdown potential. They've got this Graviton. We've seen it get eaten before. Burns is going to have to do it again.
Burns has got to come up big. It's all about the staging for the fight, though. The Nano Blade is in. Where's the Graviton? It connects. It takes him down alongside the Molten Core. Beautifully done there, burning down Ryan Amazing and allowing Cloak to continue on their amazing setup here.
Oh, the blade, the Nano Blade, it's gone. And along with it, the Diva Bomb as well, because Burns tried to just get a little bit of space on that payload and threw that ultimate away. Spike still has this Primal Rage, and you do still have a rally, but that's not the win condition. And Cloak are barreling towards a win condition. This EMP and Kryix, they don't have a Lucio, they don't have a, they don't even have a Batiste.
They don't quite have the tools they need for a win condition, but they've got to sneak one in somewhere. Find a pick, find a massive play. Wild Wing Bat. Oh, here comes the EMP. We've seen it be big. No, going to play it very passive. Cloak now being the ones to back up here. Going to regain their health just a little bit, swapping over to the Zarya. They may want to swap over to a Reinhardt at the end of the day. Losing Wild Wing Bat, I think, is definitely going to prompt something out of them, because this fight is not going well.
Absolutely not, Kryix. There's still some life in this team, and there needs to be life. Right? If that payload moves into the finish line, Cloak take this series. Kryix, they need to buy time. Amazing is coming into this next blade. Everyone's keeping up pace with that nano. So if you're Cloak, you don't want to put EMP in, because you need to use it as that reaction tool until Doug's guaranteed you that graviton.
Wait, is this a nano-bladed duplicated Genji? Where is this going from Andy? I'm not quite sure who it actually hit there, but the MP hits onto everybody in the back line. Kryix here in a world hurt here. Kevin Durant's in, and they've got a blade and a vengeance.
Kryix, once again, they waited far too long. They should have engaged with that nano blade, and Cloak take advantage of the opportunity. Take advantage and use that EMP, and now you've got a graviton, and you've nothing to keep yourself alive through it.
Absolutely nothing to keep yourself alive through that graviton. You're absolutely right there, Mox. Now it's all about the stagger. It's all about converting this and turning it into a little bit of a hole. But with 2.43 meters to go, the fight rolling further in the favor of Cloak. They're going to get the point victory and the 3-0 over Kryix on the opening night.
Oh, I would have loved to see Kryix swapped with Batiste. If you know that you're going to be running up against an EMP or a Graviton and you don't think you have that space to swap onto a Lucio or a Zenyatta and build up to an ultimate that can save you, Batiste does all that within 25 seconds of cooldown. But they stick really stubbornly with that Ana, with that Brigitte. And maybe if you were finding insane, and I do mean insane amounts of value with things like anti-nades, which effectively wins a fight if you can manage to get a large enough one. But we weren't seeing that coming out. And the nano boosts as well, they were very questionable because they didn't play like they had a nano boost. You look at how some Reinhardt, some Genjis play when they know that they've got steroids on their side. They go so aggressively into the enemy team. They don't wait around spaces and corners and chokes hoping that someone's going to walk into them. They go out, they look for a fight, they pick it, and they win it because of it. But Kryx's playstyle really just did not suit having the Ana in their ranks.
No, and that I wouldn't even call it a playstyle. I think Kryix, it's not really a preference or a playstyle to play as passive as they are. They are passive to a fault, and Cloak took advantage of that fault time and time and time again. I would say that is the biggest issue, the most glaring issue by far for Kryix, and that's both promising and not promising, right? You obviously have this big issue, and Cloak are able to take advantage of it, but on the bright side, it really is that one issue to fix. You fix how passive you've been, you just get a little bit more proactive. And all this is just pressing Q earlier. You get in there sooner, and all of a sudden, you're looking at a team that is far more formidable.
Absolutely, because you think about how Wildwing was playing. If you've got a Sombra, you're going in, you expect that you get that early pick before an ultimate comes out. You have to worry up that backline, maybe pick yourself up an Ana, head for the collection, try and farm a Diva out of her mech. But that was very rarely happening. Kryix did a very good job of actually staying alive long enough for all of Cloak to collapse in on them because they had that time to be that passive because they were alive for so long. And I think it's very much promising if they have that aggression, if they continue having that positioning where the backline stays alive far, far longer than they perhaps should. They can really run wild with aggression, get the front line a little bit more active, a little bit more pumping when it comes to damage output and feeling more comfortable to take up space. And that should allow an already strong and prominent backline to really flourish.
Yeah, and I mean, Cloak, we talk about Kryix this entire time and what they could and couldn't really fix during the game. But I think you have to applaud Cloak. You recognize a hole in the opponent's defense, and you completely exploit it. Some beautifully played Overwatch, and I'd say really, really clean dives. We've seen some extremely coordinated dives from them as well. When you have things like a Sombra, like a Genji, the Winston, the Wrecking Ball, that can be extremely hard to do. So you know what? Color me impressed as far as Cloak goes. This is an amazing showing for them. But as for today, I think that's all we got for him, isn't it, Mox?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it's going to be us signing off, but I'm sure you can catch the next match. It should be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. And that is, if my notes are correct, going to be Hour Zero up against Neon Sunset. So looking forward to seeing how the teams run around with the meta being what it is. Gone are the days of double shielding, it seems. Batiste is out the back door, and in his place is a Brigitte, and she's here to stay.
That she is. There's one more match, though, following that. I'll say it's one that's relatively special here. It's Purple versus the home team. Solstice Esports looking to defend their legacy in their own tournament. We'll find out whether or not they can do that. As for now, though, that's all we have for tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Dor. If you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at Dor_cast. And if you want to find Moxie on Twitter, she's at GotMoxie. 2 T's on the Got, though. Don't forget that. We'll see you guys later.